The Charles Huff era at Marshall did not end how we thought it was going to. In fact, it seemed kind of weird, but Southern Miss isn't going to complain. This is a team that has been struggling, and now they take Charles Huff from Marshall and they get to take over their rebuild, or he gets to take over their rebuild. We'll take a preview of the Southern Miss Golden Eagles to see what we should expect from this team in his first year. 1-11 in 2024, not exactly what you want if you're a Southern Miss fan. Everything has been going poorly for quite some time, and last year was kind of the peak of everything. You see, you only score 15 points a game, give up nearly 38. You need something to change, and Charles Huff decides that we're going to take my talent somewhere where I'm appreciated or where I'm wanted. And Southern Miss is hoping that this is going to be a really good pairing. And you saw a ton of roster change as well. You saw a ton of players depart. You saw a ton of players come in. And that's probably the coaching staff either losing certain guys or the coaching staff deciding that these guys need to be on a different level. And they see some guys depart that maybe you think that are going to be departures that will hurt your team, but overall I think the departures are going to be fine, and the guys you replace them with are going to make this team better. You look at a ton of Marshall transfers. You see guys like Josh Moten and Braylon Braxton. Those are two guys that are going to instantly impact this team, that are going to instantly change this team in a big way. And you'll see a lot of Marshall guys that are coming in: Elijah Metcalf, Tyshawn Chapman, Corey Myrick, JJ Hawkins. Those are just some of the guys that are coming into this program. And it's just basically taking Marshall and putting them in Southern Miss's roster. You also bring in certain other players that are really interesting if you're looking for guys that can elevate this team. And you're not really getting many power four players. You see Mason Clinton come in from Mississippi State, Jacoby Robinson from Boston College. I think that there are some guys that could definitely make a huge impact, but for the most part, it's going to come from the group of five or the FCS level. That being said, this is a staff that's really invested in winning football games right off the bat. They are not interested in slowing things down or taking their time. They are going to make sure that they are going to win football games immediately. And they started by bringing in the Sun Belt Player of the Year in Braylon Braxton. Braylon Braxton is someone who I thought was going to be a special player. Now, I thought that at Tulsa, and that did not work out. So I was wrong about that. However, it just took some time. This is a guy who has the ability to be a big time dual threat. He can make throws with his arm. He can make big plays with his legs. And you're looking at a guy who threw for over 1,600 yards last year, 19 touchdowns. He also ran for 610 yards and 4 more scores. So he is going to make life very miserable for the Sun Belt, including his former team in Marshall. This is an offense that will revolve around him, and he has some players coming with him, or at least that he'll throw to, that he's very familiar with. Now, joining him in the backfield, Jeffrey Pittman comes in from Mississippi State. You also have Matt Jones from Ole Miss. I think that's a really interesting combination. Even though they rush for under 300 yards each, those are two guys who have the talent to be solid players for this team, and we'll see what the depth chart ends up looking like. I think the problem with putting this one together was there's so much roster turnover. So finding who's going to be your second and third options was fairly difficult. If you did find two options, then the third 3+ is really, really challenging. But I think the running back room is going to be a combination of those two. Maybe somebody else factors in, but Braxton's also going to be part of that with his ability to run with his legs. Now, another thing that you're going to see is you're going to see comfortable quarterback with his wide receivers. You have a number of guys that are coming with him that he's familiar with. Elijah Metcalf is one of them. Carl Chester comes from Marshall. Tyshawn Chapman, we talked about him. Braylon Brown. Those are guys who all caught at least 15 passes from Braylon Braxton in 2024. So they are familiar with how he throws the football. They're familiar with what he can do, and they understand the timing of this offense. They come in with an extra advantage because they're going to be familiar with Braylon Braxton, and they're going to be familiar with how he wants to do things. Now, it might be different with Blake Anderson calling the plays, but at the same time, you just have to know, hey, this is what this is, but we called it here at Marshall. We called it this at Marshall. We called this route. You're running this route, whatever it is. They're going to be able to figure it out together because they've worked together for so long. You also see a guy in Micah Davis from Ole Miss that'll be an interesting player in this offense. Kyron Heath is an interesting tight end as well. He returns to Southern Miss. Davis Dalton is another contributor to keep an eye out for. So the wide receiver position feels like it's set. It feels like the skill positions are in a good place. The offensive line is extremely interesting. You bring in a guy in Aaron Parks from South Carolina, someone who has big time ability. You just got to see him put it all together. You also see a number of FCS and Group of Five transfers coming in. Cooper Frazier comes in from Samford. Broderick Roman comes in from Eastern Michigan. There are a lot of guys that are going to start right away for this team, and there's going to be plenty of competition. I think that's the one thing that's really exciting. If you're Southern Miss, this is a group that is going to feature a ton of competition. Yes, Charles Huff brings in a bunch of Marshall transfers, but at the same time, he's not just going to give them the job. They have to earn it. Certain guys obviously are going to have a leg up on the competition. I don't see anybody overthrowing a guy like Braylon Braxton. We'll talk about another guy like that on the defensive side of the ball, but he's still going to push them. He's going to make them believe that this is a wide open competition no matter who you are, and that's only going to make this team better. The defense is kind of the same way. There are plenty of Marshall transfers that you'll see littered in this starting lineup, the two deep, but you also have a couple of guys that I think are pretty secure in their spot. At least one for sure. We'll start up front. The defensive line has a lot of work to do. This was a group that was not good. I mean, the defense as a whole was just not good. But getting to the quarterback, being disruptive by tackling the ball carrier in the backfield is something this group has to do better. Now, when you look at what this team can do, you're also looking at guys that are proven in terms of what they did at Marshall. You look at Jabari Ishmael, 20 tackles, 4 tackles for loss. Isaiah Gibson, 29 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. You bring in Mason Clinton, you bring in Jamon Tapp from Arizona State. Those are guys who can make an impact right away. Even though they have limited experience, their body of work, their talent shows you that they're capable of doing really good things. Brodarius Lewis had 39 tackles last year, 8 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. JJ Hawkins comes in from Marshall as well. So the defensive line has some good starters, that has pretty good depth, and you're feeling pretty good about what you can do. Because again, you don't need to take huge steps, huge strides to make this group better. You do not have to make this defense better by becoming an elite defense all of a sudden. That's not going to happen. But you are going to see tremendous improvement in some of the little things. Being disruptive, beating your man to the spot. Those are things that the defensive line can get done and make this group better. The linebacker position, I'm not exactly sure who this depth chart or what the depth chart is going to look like. Chris Jones, 46 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. You also have Michael Montgomery, who had 80 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks. The depth behind him is really where I have questions. Again, this is a really tough depth chart to put together, but the starting lineup feels like you have guys that you know will get shots right away. It doesn't mean they're going to stay in the starting lineup, but those are the guys that at least look like they have, I think, the right stuff to be the starters right now. Well, we talked about guys who are going to probably be starters right off the bat. Josh Moten is that other guy. This is someone who could have gone pro this year. Now, he probably wouldn't have been a first-round pick, but he is someone who could have gone to the NFL, decides to follow Charles Huff to Southern Miss, and he's going to have a profound impact on this secondary, not just from a production standpoint, but from getting everybody else up to speed. He's joined by 2 teammates of his as well. He had 38 tackles last year, 5 passes defended, 5 interceptions. This is a guy who knows what to do when the ball is in the air, and he knows how to make plays. That's really exciting if you're Southern Miss. And you also have Amir Foster, who joins him. You also have Ian Foster, who is going to be a really interesting player coming from Marshall as well. Both of them very productive, and that's a good trio to have. You can get those other guys up to speed. Getting everybody on the same page is going to be a big part of making this team better, making this defense better. And having 3 guys that are all coming from the same place helps in that regard. Dominic Hill comes from Liberty, Jonathan Penix from Virginia Tech. Those are 2 guys who don't have as much experience, but they are going to be really interesting to watch when it comes to playing football games. Speaking of playing football games, winning them is going to be a challenge. This is still a team that has a lot of work to do. That being said, If you look at the channel voting, it's easy to see why people are excited about this team and the impact that Charles Huff has just by bringing in certain players and arriving on campus. This is a team that a lot of people are excited about and have high expectations for. 25% of you think they're going to finish first or second in the Sun Belt. 50% say third through sixth, 7th through 10th, 10%, 11 through 14, 15%. This is kind of all over the place, but it seems like third through sixth is the most likely. I see a team that could go 7-5. That is this ceiling. Again, that is if they figure everything out, both sides of the ball get things sorted out, and they know who is going to play what positions and how they make that happen. I don't necessarily know, but that's definitely a possibility. 4-8 is the floor. There's still plenty of work to do. This is a team that over under is 4.5 right now, 4.5 wins. I think that there's still plenty that they need to fix, but this is a Sun Belt conference that is pretty open, and there are games that are winnable. Now, you're probably not beating Mississippi State. You're going to take care of business against Jackson State, which is maybe not a sentence you would have said in years past. App State is kind of hit or miss right now. Louisiana Tech is trying to bounce back. Jacksonville State is going through a coaching change. You have winnable games early on. Then you go, Georgia Southern, Louisiana, that's a tough 2-game road trip. Then you have ULM at Arkansas State, Texas State, at South Alabama, Troy. You have winnable games for sure. And if there's a guy who knows how to win games in this conference, it's Charles Huff. That's for sure. Now, this is a team, again, that has work to do, but there's optimism surrounding this program. If you're excited about Southern Miss, you're excited about Charles Huff, you have every reason to be. This is a team that should be really fun to watch in 2025. And if they're able to take that step, there's a lot of people that are going to be even more excited about the future of this program going forward.